And we're back. Hey, folks, welcome back to Soaring Profits, another one of our kind of impromptu or evening lives that we've been doing of late here. And we have our regular now. You're kind of like our token guy that we go to here because you keep putting out these great videos. Yeah, it's fantastic. So we have Mike once again from Finding Fish, and James is messing with stuff apparently.
Right.
So we're gonna pull that back. Yeah, Mike, pleasure to have you again, pal. What have you been
thanks for having me.
It looks like you've been kind of busy.
We have been busy. I've been I just finished a video this past weekend at probably around 20. I got it down to 25 hours ish to edit that video, which is, for me, that's amazing.
Wow.
And we were in Cuba. We did a hotel review this time, so totally new to us, but we really wanted to try it, and we really wanted to see what we could do with it. And we worked on it, and lo and behold, we did get a video out of it.
I love it. I love it. Well, it certainly looks like you've enjoyed your stay. I'm going to throw this up here for some folks.
Oh, perfect. Oh, my favorite part.
We're right at the bus. Here, hang on. Let me go back for a second here.
Oh, that's okay.
And after a quick 3.5-hour flight, we're here. Paradise.
Up on the table.
Oh, yeah.
Let's talk to Cuba. We arrived at Cayo Coco. We're going to do a check-in, check-out at the Flamenco, and everything in between for you guys. Also, get off the bus. One person, grab the luggage. The other person gets in line. We're checking into Diamond Club. Join us. It's going to be awesome. As I mentioned, the lobby is where you're obviously going to check in and out, but it is also where you'll find your travel rep, book excursions, and where you find the concierge to book any of the restaurants that you might want to eat at. This is also a place to grab coffee or drinks, as well to access the Wi-Fi.
Perfect.
Skip ahead to the end there, Pat. Just yeah, right there. That's exactly where that's exactly where
Loves it here. Loves it here. So there's another person. I meet people here all the time that have been back 10, 15 times. But Jimmy?
Yep.
Right now, you are the top dog.
I am the top dog.
I've never met anybody that's been here 40.
Right. I am the top tiers guesses of Memor Flamenco.
Yeah, good for you, buddy.
Yep.
Pleasure. It's been a real pleasure.
This is my second home. Now becoming the first. Sooner, really soon, become the first home.
And you know why? Because this is why. That background.
Whoa. Wow. Look at the water. Look at the color of the water. Intoxicating.
For sure, Jimmy. Pleasure.
I love it.
I love Jimmy.
I love that guy.
Yeah. Jimmy is a character. I hope Jimmy reaches out to me. I really do, because I mentioned to Jimmy before I left, I said, Jimmy, what do you like to do? What do you do? And Jimmy's like, I love watching YouTube. I love dim sum. I'm in Toronto. And I said, Jenny and I should come up to Toronto and let's do a best of dim sum. Let's go to your favorite restaurants and let's make a video about it, because he's a passionate guy, as you can see from that 20-second clip. Yep. He loves it. He revels in it. And I want him to reach out to me, and I hope he will. And so we can go up to Toronto and do a show, because he's a lot of fun. And he just loves to be on a camera. He could just take the show.
Yeah. I love it. No, he has a great personality. He just leaps off the screen. I love that. That's great. The way he was describing the water was like just poetic. It's awesome. No,
Jimmy, I didn't know what to expect from Jimmy. Yeah, I didn't know what to expect from him when I said, "Hey, Jimmy, do you mind if you want to talk to me? I'm walking down the beach. I'm walking back." He's like, "Totally." And nothing was rehearsed. I just turned the camera on, and that's where it went to. And it was like, it was so easy with him. It was just like, oh, that was awesome.
I love it. Well,
That's
it
some
seems
of
like
my best memories about traveling is just meeting random people that are just like
Totally.
epically just wonderful. You may never see them again, but during that time that you're with them, their personalities are huge and you learn so much, especially if you run into people who actually live in the place that you're at and the culture and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's so interesting to meet. And he just seems like a great guy. So when I saw it, I'm like, I got to show that on that little piece on it.
He's he's the type of guy that you want to run into if you're doing any filming at all, because he's a character, just like you said. And I'm so grateful that clip worked out, because I made the clip, but I really didn't know what it was going to look like until later that night when I got home. And, I had a few drinks. Obviously, right?
No.
So I got back later on that day, or the next morning during coffee, I was looking over the clips. I'm like, oh, I have it. I'm so happy, because I didn't even have to edit that. It was that was just going. That's exactly how it was. It was perfect.
Well, so obviously you guys, you and your wife have been doing these trips for a little while now, and you've been kind of documenting this. And you were saying that when we first started this off, that you've got your editing piece down to the 25-hour mark, right? So this is taking.
Yeah.
So you're taking how much footage when you are down there? Like, you're shooting pretty much nonstop?
I wouldn't say nonstop. I came home with all my SD cards completely full, and I lost an SD card, which had a massive amount of this project on there.
Yep.
But luckily, I take three different cameras. I took 5 SD cards. So I've learned now to back up my footage and to make extra B-roll, extra intros, extra everything in case catastrophic things happen, which it does.
Yeah.
And I have to come home, and let's just say this. You're on a holiday, so you need to have a holiday, and you have a few drinks, and then you forget, did I make that B-roll? So you make extra B-roll, and you come home, and then you sit in front of your computer and you see how much footage you have. I have so much footage. I can make a whole different project from the footage I have. But I have to, you cut out so much when you're editing. Like it's 25 minutes out of hours and hours of what I have.
Right.
So
there's a story behind Mike's B-roll. I know it because he and I had a chat about it. So there was a London incident with his son. You should tell us about that, because that just seems catastrophic to me.
Well, yeah. So I flew, my son and I flew to London, and I wanted to do it's the oldest pubs in London. So we set out one day. We walked, because we monitored how much we walked. We walked about 20K a day. We hit 5 pubs that day. Plus, we maxed out our Oyster card, which is, you can use the Oyster card as much as you want on the underground or above ground. We maxed that out. And when I got back that night, I lost the footage of pretty much that entire day.
No way.
I woke up the next day, my soul was hurting. My guts were hurting, because I just knew I was in big trouble. And I woke my son up. I said, buddy, we got a big problem. He's like, what's the problem? I said, well, we're going to have to redo that footage. He's like, we're not doing that. Like, and I am like, oh yeah, we're doing it. We're doing it all. And so we set out, we did that plus another video. That's what we did. And, I had one more problem with that one, because I had a copyright issue from the oldest pubs for the first 2 minutes on the start of the project. I had a copyright. It picked up a little minute sound to the Bee Gees or something. So I had to mute it. Mm-hmm. So, you just run into these things, and that's life trying to be a YouTuber.
Right. You actually saved me, because I was in Renfrew, which is not.
Ottawa.
Yeah, I was doing a live. I think it might have been with Shannon. I'm not sure, but we were doing a live, and I was really close to the chalet, and they were playing live music, and your voice came into my head that if that hits the background, we're going to not be able to show this live. So I quickly got far away enough and asked Pat if he could hear it. He's like, no, I can't hear it anymore. But yeah, otherwise we would have had a whole live that. So you totally saved us that day.
That's the funny part, is you learn from your experiences. The problem is your experiences are when you're back at home and then you learn. It's like, now what? But I know now, and I see a lot of YouTubers, they always say, oh, I hate that. I hate music. And now I understand.
Yeah.
So actually, if you walk into a building now, I always walk in first and say, hey, can you turn that music down? Or if you've noticed, I do a lot of voiceovers now. I've learned to do voiceovers because some places aren't turning down the music, and that's the way it's going to be. So you learn how to just do a whole voiceover, and that's where you can save yourself.
For sure.
Yeah. Oh, totally. No, yeah, I totally, like, it is hard. The other thing that's hard is that each platform that you use, like we use multiple platforms. We're on TikTok, Instagram, and each of them have different rules. So I had this one video that was okay on TikTok, and I transported it over to Instagram. And because of the music, it banned it on Instagram, even though it was okay on TikTok. So I guess TikTok pays for that music, but Instagram does. I don't know. It's hard to know freaking rules. Yeah.
If you listen to now when I'm doing a video and you can hear my music in the background, that's all copyright free music that I get from YouTube.
Right.
And it saves your hide, because it's nice to have a little bit of background music, right? I've learned.
Sure.
It saves those mute points. It's like you need to have something. And it helps go from one transition to another. So music is huge and you need it.
Right.
Yeah, well, I think you really dialed it in. So watching that video, it's a lot different than your other videos where you have like just the right amount of narrative, just the right amount of real live talk, and then also those beautiful scenes that you've always had. That's never changed. But it's just, and then when you add the interview, and at the end, there's like a bunch of little things where the servers are saying, come to Cuba, I believe, and stuff. That stuff is cool. Very cool and very interesting. I urge anyone watching this to go watch that video, because it really highlights that place very well.
It does. And I got a lot of support from the people that run it. They love it. So they now post it on their sites.
Nice.
That's kind of why I went there. For me, that resort I've been to a lot. So it was very easy to put a video together there for me. It was like no problem. It was like me walking around my house. I know all the things to do. So for me, I know I will have a lot of eyeballs looking at that, because they have a massive following at that resort, which is, if you're trying to start a YouTube channel and you want to do things, it's the best thing is to go to where the eyeballs are going. So you're getting people already going to your channel because they want to find out what am I going to expect when I go to the resort? And YouTube is massive for that, right? So people want to go to learn, what the food is, everything.
So Mike, you were saying, Mike, that was your first time doing like a review of a hotel.
That's right. Yeah.
So now, like you were saying, you had a lot of support from those folks. I know I've stayed at a couple times in some of the Memories branded hotels down there in Cuba. They're fantastic. I've had nothing but great experiences myself. Now, were your situation when you told them that you were doing this, did you find that your experience changed from different times you've been there? Were you treated slightly differently, or was it just a general overview of, hey, these are good guys coming from Canada, we treat everyone the way that we treat? Or did you find that there was some fringes and privileges that otherwise might not have been there?
Good question. So I've been to that resort quite a few times, and I know the managers there. This time it's like he knew we were coming to do a video. When we got there, it's like the first question out of his mouth is, what would you like and where do you want to stay? You can pick the hotel, you can pick whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
And then, I don't want to be treated better than anybody else, especially when you're making a video, because the funny thing is at the last day, and this is the footage I actually lost. So the last day I said, I need to do food. It's called Bites. It's the 24-hour snack bar. I need to do some footage of all your food that you can do here. They said, no problem. I'll see you at 8 a.m. I said, perfect. I'll see you then. Well, do they not make the best and the biggest sandwiches, food preparation, drinks, everything? That's like I can't film this because the average Joe is never going to get this.
Right.
And so I lost all the footage, and it's probably a good thing because I was getting sub sandwiches that typically it'd be, this big. They were coming like 14 inches high, $10 worth of meat on them. It's like, no one's going to get this. So luckily I didn't shoot that. I didn't broadcast that.
So now in those situations, Mike, like you were saying that they have quite a following themselves. And I know in the places that I've stayed before with Memories, they use a lot of Facebook advertising. Like they have their group, they're like whatever.
Yeah. 100%. Right.
Now, have they used any of your stuff now that you've been posting on YouTube? They've loaded that onto their Facebook pages?
Always. Yeah.
Love it.
Anything that I ever do when I go to this resort, Jorge will send, like Jorge, he's a Mexican. He's Mexican and runs a Cuban resort.
Interesting.
That's the way they operate. And he always will hound me. Send me pictures, send me this, send me that, send me Instagram stuff.
Yeah.
So he was like, I just got back into Canada and he was sending me a text the following day. When's the video going to be ready? It's like he doesn't have a concept of how long it takes to digest. I have.
Right.
And then figure out how to cite. I think it's been uploaded 2 or 3 times already. So it will do very well, especially coming up in the winter season, because he'll repost it. And people, I always find, and I listen to a lot of people because I ask a lot of questions of tourists when I'm away. What are you looking for? And they say, I go to YouTube all the time because I want to see what the food looks like. I want to see what the room looks like. How do I check in? What do I get? Blue towels? Is there ketchup? So I try to answer these questions from what I ask and what I hear.
100%. And it was one of the clips that really stood out for me. Again, I've done some, I don't know if I'm there as much as you guys are, but I've done a bunch of trips down to Cuba. Yeah. And like you said about condiments, you like in your clip there, you're like, do they have condiments? And you've got the flash across the screen. You got the kind of the no name ish ketchup that Cuba is known for, right? Their mustard that is a little bit different than mustard anywhere else in the world. Yeah. All of these products, but that's what they have.
Now, when I was there at Christmas, I'm going to be telling you the truth here. When it was hurting, I'm telling you. And anyone that was in Cuba during COVID, they were missing. Like some days there wasn't milk. Some days there was no condiments. Some days there was no chicken. Yeah. And I'm being truthful. Yeah. So when people ask me, I always tell them, yeah, I was there during COVID and it was bad. But I was just there recently, and it's unbelievable how much they've bounced back because the dollars are starting to flow and they can bring in the product. I had a clip and I didn't use it, but Cuba actually has to import 70% of everything that they need. They don't produce it. They don't have the fertilizers to produce the food that they really need. They bring in their poultry. If you've been to Cuba, you see how big a cow is. They're skinny. Dogs are bigger. So you don't see a lot of beef, and I rarely eat beef there. So, Cuba is struggling, but these resorts, they're doing okay now. They're bouncing back. They're not all open, but they're coming back.
Well, that goes to kind of the overall questions I have around Cuba right now is that a country that is so dependent on tourism, the import of so many goods, as you know, Mike, I talk a lot about the financial side of things, and inflation has got to be hitting that nation brutally, right? So going through COVID, when you had a lack of transport, you had a lack of Canadians going down there. Did you notice that there were many other nationalities kind of represented around, or is it still predominantly Canadians?
That's a good question. So when I was there at Christmas, it was probably 30% Russians, 30% Canadians, and then about the rest were made up of Cubans, because now Cubans are allowed to travel and go to their own resorts in their own country, which rightfully so, they should.
Yeah.
But 2 years ago, you would not have seen Cubans. Wow. 2 years ago when I was there, you would have, just before COVID, there would have been people from Colombia, there would have been Argentines, there would have been people from Poland, England. Yep. I haven't seen an English person forever. I have only seen like Russians and Cubans. And now that the war has started in Ukraine, there's no more Russians. So the constraint has been harder on them now. So they're relying on the Canadians and the Cubans. Well, Cubans don't have the dollar bills that the Canadians have. And pre-COVID, there was 11 million Cubans living in Cuba, and there was 1 million Canadian tourists coming down every single year. So that's almost 10% of their population was Canadians. So we bring a lot of dollar bills down there, but still, Cuba's not to pre-COVID. They're not pre-COVID yet. They're still hurting, but it's coming. They're coming around.
Yeah.
So when you travel down there, you always bring stuff. Like, is there a change in that? Like, it used to be like you bring craft supplies and stuff like that, and clothing for children and shoes and stuff like that. Are they asking for something different now? Is it?
I get asked
cash, or
they love cash, but I'm going to tell you right now, they have a black market there. Okay. So cash is amazing. So you give someone $5. That's awesome. But if you have $5 and you can't get something on a shelf, it's useless. So Jenny and I brought 100 pounds worth of food and some clothes, but not much clothes, food. And people say, well, what kind of food did you bring? I brought pasta sauce, peanut butter, peanuts. We brought rice. We bought beans, all kinds of different beans, toothpaste, toothbrushes, deodorant, shaving gel, shavers, because you mentioned earlier, Pat, about inflation. Inflation there is killing them. No one will really tell you, no Cuban will tell you how much they make.
Right.
They don't. It's a mystery, But let's just say if a razor here cost us $1, there it costs them, say, $2 to $4. That's probably reality. Yeah. And if you're only making, say you make 100 or 200 or 300 a month, that is a massive expense to shave. Yeah. So they have a massive amount of inflation going on, and not only inflation, they might not be able to get it anyway.
Right.
Right. So
I think it's fantastic, because that's an interesting prospect. Like James was saying, you hear people all the time that take down different supplies, whether it be educational supplies or children's items, that sort of thing. But the food aspect, that's something that is very new. I've never heard of that one before, and needed by the sounds of it, right? Like those kind of basic items, right?
Yeah, I learned that at Christmas time. So we land at the Cuban airport at Christmas, and I see all these cube kind of shape, like 3 by 3 by 2 feet high, wrapped in saran wrap. And I'm trying to figure out, what is this? It's by our luggage, and there's 20 containers of these. And I figured out it's the Cubans that are traveling from Canada. They don't bring luggage home. They bring food. They bring life items back for them and their relatives, and to sell. Yeah. They sell these things, right? Like, one thing that the Russians did and the Cubans used to do is they used to be able to fly. And now this is just hearsay, okay? So this isn't fact coming from fact. This is hearsay that I listen and I try to learn. Cubans were flying to Russia because they could, and they would buy items, say like toasters, this, that, whatever they didn't have at home, come home and then sell it to other Cubans. So I know that there's a market there. Right. And it's a big market. So let's just say I brought pasta sauce, razors, deodorant. Buddy, I give it to a guy. He doesn't want it, or I give it to a woman. She doesn't want it. But you know what? That might be $5. Yep. It only costs me $2, but it could be $5 to them. So that's the market that you don't see or hear of.
Right.
Not super interesting. So when you flew in there, is that Keokoko, kind of the archipelago area?
Yeah.
Okay, so from there, did you go into what would that tell me? Is that Moron that is the nearest?
It's Moron.
So did you end up going into the community at all at the time, or no?
I didn't this time. The reason is because I wanted to film. I was there to film, and I was trying to film maybe two. I wanted to do 2 vlogs. Then you have a couple issues. Then you have a few drinks. And then some ideas get put on the wayside. And so we're going to do 3 shows. Jenny kind of wasn't feeling good. She actually just ate something. It didn't agree with her. So she was down for the count for a day. So we were going to go and rent a motor scooter and do a whole series on that. And we were going to go into town and go to Pilar, the best beach in Cuba, and film it.
Yeah.
And so that got kiboshed. So, you just have to go with the ebbs and flows of the reality that you're in that day.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, that's cool. Well, so Cuba for me has always been an interesting spot. Again, you hear people when they're traveling, they talk, first of all, either you're great with the Cuban food or you're not. It's kind of a hit or miss thing. But like for Canadians, the value travel is fantastic. And what you're doing, going back to the YouTube stuff, is offering insight, which is, I know that you've documented your travels before, but now going and taking a little bit different angle on it and presenting it as, hey, this is what your experience will be like, potentially, like you were saying, getting all those eyeballs on you, developing a bit of an audience to, hey, where's Finding Fish going next time? I think it's a great idea, man. I think you're doing great.
Well, and that's where we're broadening out. So if we can do a couple of hotel reviews a year, 2 or 3, to throw that in the mix, I think it's great to have some base, to build your base. I'm totally going to be going into Cuba the next time I go. I also did a small little snippet review of the next resort over at the adults only, so they're expecting me to come back and do that.
Oribe?
Yes,
that's where I've stayed a couple times. Yeah,
the adults only.
Yeah.
So I met with the managers there. So I'm leaving for my flight within 3 hours. And what do? I decide to walk 3 kilometers through the ocean, do a time lapse about it.
Yeah.
In the rain, get there, meet with all the head honchos. I have to borrow a towel to dry myself off. Meet with the head honchos. Then they want me to do a film. I'm like, guys, like I'm leaving and I've got to be back home to be in my hotel and I'm leaving. So I actually, once the head honchos left me alone and I was able to do what I wanted, I was able to make a cool little snippet for them. Yeah. And of course, they're asking, when's the real stuff going to come? Yeah. So anyway, that's what I love to do, though. Like time is, I don't even worry about time anymore. It's just like, I'll make it.
It's great that you have both interest on the public who are like, I want to see this and I want to see that in the video. And then you also have these hotels that are starting to hear about you and give you have a name starting in Cuba, right? And once they start figuring out that you have a service that's valuable, which you do, like your video is amazing. I think it's fantastic. And you probably have people start coming to you. Like you're absolutely right. Every time I've traveled, which isn't extensive, I'm the least traveled around here because, well, I'm an old man who didn't travel. But when I did travel, I searched videos, and it was all videos of people that put on, and a lot of them are like hard to watch, hard to follow. It's just some, guy or girl that's like shaking all over, and there's not really any information. You have to draw that information. Whereas yours is nicely cut. It's like from beginning to end. It's like really introduce you to the space, and I just love it. I think it's fantastic. It was a great idea. Yeah.
Thank you. Now, I've learned though, I'm not saying I created this all myself. Well, I created what I created, but I study other YouTubers and I study what I like and what I don't like. So Jenny will be sleeping and I'll be up at 4 a.m. and I'll watch YouTube because I'll study the people that I like, and then I'll see how, that B-roll is cool. I like how they did that. Like I like how they integrate things together. So I think to become good at anything you want to do, there's other people that are amazing, and you just study them, and so you can critique yourself. And you have to make the videos to see, oh my God, that was terrible. But you have to produce it, you have to do it, and then you learn. Okay, you have to watch yourself and then learn. Okay, from that, and just better yourself, hopefully over time. And that's what I try to do.
Yeah. Well, I know my first series of videos, Pat finally said to me, dude, I'm just so tired of looking up your nose. Could you maybe change the angle of your screen? Maybe just once, because I don't want to see what's up your nose anymore.
But you guys are a team, and that is amazing because each one of you guys can critique each other. You're not going to take it personally, but you're critiquing each other so you better yourselves. And that's the name of the game. You started at 0, and then you're just going to walk up those stairs until you become better. And you just become better with helping each other out. And that's my wife helps me out and I help her out. And
you touched on something that we talk about on this show all the time, Sorry Profits, is we talk about the people you surround yourself with. And you know, like Pat talks about, and I talk about that. He and I, like, I'll watch a little bit of YouTube. I'm not gonna lie, it happens once in a while, but most of the time I'm watching motivational videos. I'm watching people who do motivation, and I'm learning how they talk, their cadence, how they get a crowd worked up and excited. Meanwhile, Pat's watching about finances and money and stuff like that. And when it's because every once in a while we do, well, not every once in a while, probably every week we do something on the market. I don't know a lot about the market, so he gives me kind of a snippet of what we're going to talk about, and then I research it and I learn it from the people that know. And you're absolutely right. Like, if you don't go to see the people who know, then it's an uphill battle the whole way. But if you can like see what they're doing, it just makes things a little bit easier.
For sure. You know, 100%. Like, we all need someone to study, because there's someone, no matter what we're doing, there's someone before us.
Yeah.
You know,
well, my father used to have a saying, and I played pretty good athletics growing up, and football was a game that I got into kind of young. And he said to me, he goes, as a Canadian kid, you grew up playing hockey and you grew up playing lacrosse and all that sort of thing. Trying to break into the NFL for a Canadian kid is a pretty uphill battle. And he's like, the reason is that you've got Jim, who's the next door neighbor in Raleigh, North Carolina, who played 12 years pro for the Indianapolis Colts. And the kid has access to him every day. You can go bang on his door. He's 7 doors down. He's like, it's just different. Yeah. But if you don't have that experience, if you don't go and reach out for that leadership potential, or who's doing it, or why they're doing it, or what makes that niche that got them to where they are, you're leaving a lot on the table. And it was, again, going back to the community that we're in here in kind of lacrosse heaven. My daughter, she's an excellent athlete, and I'm in the process right now where I'm trying to tip her to lacrosse. Yeah. Where she's playing rugby. She was doing competitive gymnastics, all these sorts of things. And I'm saying to her is that, like, you've got some of my buddies are the best lacrosse players in the world. And it's like, you have these guys you call up and you're like, hey, Sean, can you come over and show her how to do this? Yeah. Like, these are on your phone dial. Why do you need rugby? Like, rugby? You're nuts.
But she loves it, and she's really good at it.
And she is. But that's the problem. It's like next level, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
100%.
Has she even played a game of lacrosse? Like, I think if you got her out there, she would love it. Like, she loves everything she touches. She is a natural athlete, just like you. And but you're absolutely right. Like, it's true. Like, when you surround yourself, I was talking about this last time with I lost her name. Who was last week?
Killer Kate.
Katie, Killer Kate, of course. We were talking about who you surround yourself with. Like, you know, I had friends that I had to walk away with. They were great friends. They were loving, kind, wonderful people. But when you go over to their house, you're like sitting there watching movies and eating chips, and you're not doing things, and that slows your progress down. 100%. Whereas you start hanging out with the people, like if you hang out with a Kate, and she's like, let's go do something. You want to go for a hike? Let's go for a hike. Yeah, that just moves you forward. And that's the same thing with what you're saying about the learning about YouTube and learning about sports. And if you go to the people that know, and if you're fortunate enough to know someone that you can actually go and don't hold the stick like this, hold it like this, like that one little technique, it just makes everything so much better, and it can save you. Just like you, when you told me about the music in the background, that saved me a whole video. Yeah, like we would have lost that whole video, and it's because I went to someone who knew, and they were able to tell me. It's just beautiful.
As I'm going to be 52 this year, and as you get older, I find your time is way more valuable. And I have a lot of great friends, and some friends I just don't hang out with, because when you're passionate and you want to drive your focus into an area that you're really passionate about as you get older, you want to hang out with your people. That's what I call it, your people, right? People that are inspiring or wanting to do what you want to, not want to do what you want to do, but they're in that neighborhood. And if they're not in the neighborhood at all, it's hard to have the conversation. Do you know what I'm saying? It's so I always want to surround myself with people that are travelers now, like 100% fitness travelers, eat fairly decent, and are kind of like-minded in some aspect that way. Not have to be totally, right? Like, we still have to hang out with people and our friends, but I have a lot better time with more like-minded people because it's an easier hangout.
Right.
Yeah.
You know?
You just have more to talk about. You can't talk
Oh.
with someone who's like, "What did you do last night?" Well, I watched the movie on Netflix, and you're like, I don't even know what that is. I don't have a clue
totally.
what that is. But if you say I went hiking in Algonquin Park, you can go, "Oh yeah, man, I've been there." Like, where you can have like deeper conversations, and it's just more exciting and enjoyable. Getting on that kind of topic, we were talking last time about the three of us going to Kingston. Are we going to do this? Go to Kingston, check out some burger joints?
Oh, for sure.
That would be money. Like coming
For
in
sure.
October or November, something like that, and you can do the filming since
We,
you have all the skills.
Totally. I haven't I've been home now, say 2 weeks. I haven't even been to Kingston. It's like time evaporates, when you go and travel and you come home and then you have to do editing and then you have to actually physically make some sort of money and hanging with your kids, it's, time evaporates,
Absolutely.
That's
where this guy, he's taking off to Halifax on us next week here. Well, when 2 days you're taking off?
Thursday morning. Leaving at 5 a.m. going to see my baby girl. Can't wait.
That's going to be awesome.
She's already got like 100 plans for me. There's a drag
you'll be fine when you get home.
All sorts of things. It's going to be so much fun.
Awesome.
So we're going to try another. So back during the whitewater rafting, we did a live. And so now I'm going to do a live Thursday night from Halifax with this guy named Ross. You should watch it. He's a radio announcer, or was for 12 years. And then he had a successful marketing career. Very interesting guy. Has that old radio voice that you know and love. That's like, I can't do it, but that nice baritone, deep, kind of smooth voice. That so I'm excited to do it. I just hope because I was using my phone. There was mosquitoes everywhere. I ended up in my friend's car with the lights from the car because it was so dark you couldn't even see me. It was the worst. So I learned a lot that day for sure.
Yeah, we ended up jumping on every topic under the sun. We had a lovely young lady who's a pediatric nurse, just off Vancouver Island, and we were worried about the sound, the music getting us in trouble with YouTube. I think we're blackballed on that one for 1,000 other topics that we're allowed to bring up again. So I don't know if that had anything to do with it, but we talked about it all, and she was fantastic. She had some. Check out the video because she was very concerned about where we are in our health kind of plan in Canada, as well as what she saw in BC. And then she's worked all over. She was here in the area in Ontario for a long time, moved out there, thought she was getting away from a lot of the devastation. And she is, she's created a business to kind of replace the income from nursing, because that's where she sees our health industry as a whole getting out of it. So it's, and she's done very well for herself. Young entrepreneurial woman. I've known her for years. Fantastic, Shannon. And a local girl here that went out and traveled the world, did some amazing things.
Was that 2 weeks ago?
3.
Yeah.
Oh, I think I saw some of that. Yes.
Yeah. So no, she's a real sweetheart and doing fantastic things, and as well as advocating, which is hard in this climate, and especially was months ago. So no, it was. I think that could be why, if we were having any YouTube.
We didn't have any issues, but I'm just saying we could have. No, we had some topics about nursing and government and Trudeau and just
all the good stuff.
Right.
Nurses were being treated, which is awful. Like some of the stuff that I don't think Pat or I knew that was going on behind the scenes of nursing, and the COVID stuff. And so we got into a lot of kind of not necessarily taboo topics, but topics that
gray area
the population is happy about.
100%. But we live in Canada. Who's happy with whatever? It's a fickle country.
Right. Yeah. Well, now, what was it I saw earlier today? They were saying that there was a $20 million lawsuit. I think it was out of the States. I don't think we've had them in Canada yet. A $20 million settlement for those who were laid off due to not accepting the vaccinations.
Wow. Oh, wow.
So like that very much touched based on where she was. I know, and I won't go into, that's for her story to tell. And I think she kind of vaguely touched base on it, but she was the last ones to kind of reluctantly go through that process.
Yeah.
As we're, everyone was told all the way along that everyone, the science, everything is good. And now these people, well, whether they get their job back, I don't know if that was a bit of a screening questionnaire for some of these employers down there, but now this is hitting people's pockets. And if it happened down there, I hate to say it, what's next for us and what's the fallout? So we'll see.
I was just reading the medical people that were advising Trudeau were not saying that you had to have a vaccine to fly. They were saying you had to have distance, have masks, but they weren't promoting vaccines as being mandatory to fly anywhere. But that's huge, because that's why I got a vaccine. That's why a lot of people got a vaccine, because they wanted to be able to travel, see their loved ones. I wanted to see my daughter.
I only did it so I can have freedom. That's it.
Right.
Yeah.
Like I had COVID. I actually, I was in Portugal just before COVID was hitting, and we flew home, and then that's when the crap hit the fan. And I remember going to the Y, and people were getting sick, and I just got home, and I was sick for 3 weeks, and I spread it to a few people quickly. And I remember people saying, I can't taste anything. This is before, just before COVID was announced, and then everything was getting shut down. But I believe it was out there well before.
I agree. Yeah. So, I think it was too. I know of a few people that say that they were ill before that too, with the same exact symptoms. But that's the way illnesses work. Like you don't know until a large group of people get them. A few people bringing it in, and then once it starts becoming like a large people, then they're finally a doctor sees it and goes, this is interesting. I've had 10 of these today.
Well, you're James, like you were saying about you had monkeypox here recently, so
monkeypox.
High risk, man. You're high risk. I don't have to tell you.
My only question about COVID, this is my real question, is what did we learn and who learned it? And what is the protocol for something like this ever to happen again? And who are we going to listen to? So we can just listen to 100 different people, and they're going to have 100 different, reasons. It's like, is there anything written down concrete that we could go by as citizens of this country? If this happens, what do we get to do? Or does it just turn into a crap show again?
I kind of thought we had like a little document that gave us certain rights and freedoms, no matter if you catch the cold or not. But we just shit on that in a heartbeat. And so, like, my big concern and where all this is I've been watching China for years as an investor, right? China, like everyone's like, oh, China's the next big thing. So I've watched it for a very long time. And if you ask me where China is now, if China makes it out of this year in the shape they are right now, I'll be shocked. And when you look at where they are, locking down their communities, locking down their public, look on the brink of war. I
think they're a dangerous country, personally.
Yeah, I think they're going to have trouble feeding their people. I really don't think that this Taiwan, I think, is a lot of saber rattling. I
don't really understand the Taiwan. Like, why are they so bent out of shape to have that? Like, they're not going to. Taiwan's not producing a lot of food for them. Like, what are they going to get out of Taiwan?
I think it's their location. They're worried about another country or NATO or someone moving in. I think is what the problem is. I don't think they're worried about what they produce or don't produce. And also, I think it's a little bit like Pat has explained this to me. It's not like I know this stuff off by heart or anything. I think it's a little bit that they like China really does feel Taiwan is theirs, right?
Yeah.
Even though they've broken off, just much like Russia feels Ukraine is theirs, Yeah.
But what happens? So you say we're broken off. We've been divorced for 6 years or 60 years. And then all of a sudden what? You think, okay, I want you back. Taiwan's saying, we're not coming back. Who has the say? The country
the guy with the bigger gun, unfortunately.
And you know what? That's the dangerous part of this world that we're
Yeah.
living in. If you would ask me 20 years ago, would there be a third or fourth world war? I would have said no. And now
Yeah.
look what's happened. It only takes a little bit to unhinge the world. The world is a very delicate place. And I think because of COVID and US interest rates, which don't get talked about a lot, but a lot of currencies and a lot of debt are denominated in US funds. And this is going to put a massive strain on some of these up and coming countries like Sri Lanka that can't afford to pay the debt. They can't afford to put food. You're going to pay the food. Are you going to pay the debt or put food on the table?
Right.
It's either or, and they can't do both. So who's going to fund that? The IMF has to come in, but the IMF won't come in until they have their house in order, a new parliament. The world is a mess, and I hate to say that, but
yeah, there's a lot of there's a lot of powder kegs just waiting to happen, and unfortunately, some of our politicians are making poor choices in exasperating situations, like Nancy Pelosi flying into Taiwan. That was totally unnecessary.
Yeah, don't get that.
Why the hell would you do that? Why would you aggravate another country that's not doing well in a time when no country is doing well? There must be a reason.
Yeah. Speaker of the House. A Speaker of the House gets on a plane. I've never known, I've watched US politics for a long time. I've never seen that before in my life. And I still don't understand it. Makes no sense.
So for me, the Pelosi thing, so Nancy Pelosi, if you follow her and her husband's stock investments, you'll be
oh my gosh,
the NASDAQ, the S&P, all of it, hands down.
Crooks.
100%. So crooks. Taiwan, I've talked a little bit about this with the profiteers here before. We got people now. They're the profiteers. These are the
most too much in the world.
We got people now. But right, I like that. It's kind of cool.
Oh, it's awesome.
Yeah. So one of the things with
profiteer
going over there you go, you're profiteer. One of the things with Pelosi going over there is that so Taiwan Semiconductors is a company in Taiwan, based in Taiwan, a private entity there that manufactures and distributes a massive majority of the high-end semiconductors that we use in all of our electronics.
Yeah.
Like I've said before, is that if you were trying to buy a car the last little while, a fridge, a dishwasher, anything like that, they had massive manufacturing constraints. There was fires. There was devastation in the semiconductor business. So Taiwan Semiconductors is actually a natural resource. That's the way they look at it, right? Mm-hmm. And whereas we went in and we invaded Iraq, well, that was for humanitarian reasons, right? That's why we went in.
Massive weapons.
Right.
Yeah, the ones that they couldn't find, but were there.
So there's a lot of investment that's done in Taiwan that's super important to the geopolitical stability of Southeast Asia. The problem is that, and I really do mean this, and the more and more that I dig into this, China is not a threat. If they make it out of this year alone, like come back in February and we'll take a look at it. If they make it out of January, February, March, and they're not seeing shortages in food to the point where their people, like, they're already rioting in the streets.
Yeah.
Like the bank shut.
You don't see that on TV though, eh?
It's odd how that works, right? It's very odd. And that's where geopolitically I look at it and I go, so we've been told for years what we're supposed to think with COVID. We've been told for years, left-leaning media, right-leaning media, all of them have their take on things, but nobody's showing this. Like, this is happening. There's a bank run in China right now to the tone of like $600 billion that they've just froze assets. There's a housing crisis. Sorry, go ahead, Mike.
Well, I love this story because I've been following this for a while. It's called Evergrande. You don't hear about Evergrande too much, but I'll tell you right now, that's about a $680 billion problem. Yep. That's out there. That's just the tip of the iceberg, and the shadow banking that goes along in China. People, well, not like I love to listen to financial stuff, but I think 30% of the GDP of China comes from the housing. So, Evergrande was selling bonds. They were selling units, building high rises. I've watched documentaries where Evergrande put up tower after tower after tower, no elevators. There's no elevators in these buildings. There's no plumbing. There's nothing in the buildings. It's just a structure, just so it's an investment for someone. And if anyone were to ever move in, they would finish it off. I'm telling you, when the cards fall over there, if they do, that's going to hit a lot of people all over the world. And it doesn't get talked about a lot.
No.
I think people are scared to talk about it.
Yeah. Mike, you're bang on. And this is where, okay, so those that have been kind of following us here, we've watched over the last little while where the market has rallied. And I've been teaching and showing people like the difference between a bear market and a bull market, bear being obviously a downward trending market. And what we've had over the last about 5 or 6 weeks as everyone in the stock market is just like, yes, we've hit the bottom. Everything's great. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, this is what's called a bear market rally.
Yeah.
And
it's a fierce one though. Because I even got me second guessing myself. It's like this actually, a short covering rally always starts off the bear market rally, but it has got some serious legs. Like it's friggin' like stocks are going back to their 52-week highs. It's like a head scratcher right now. It's a head scratcher.
So my take on that is why we're heading back there is because the news that we had has been everything driven by the Federal Reserve and inflation.
Mm-hmm.
Everything, all of the bad news that we've taken in and gurgitated so far, we've digested, has been about inflation, because inflation was running off the tracks, right? Mm. Inflation is a sign of a strong economy.
Yeah, totally.
Okay, so that's a problem. If you've got $1,000 for an iPhone and they can charge you $1,500 because the guy behind you's got $1,500, it now becomes $1,500.
100%.
Right? Basic economics. So that means you got a strong economy. Well, the problem is all that money was just printed. Yeah. It's not that we have a fundamentally strong economy. It's that it's fugazi. It's bullshit.
Lottery winnings.
Exactly. Yeah. So what happens now is that as we start to tighten the financial constraints from the Fed and we're raising those interest rates, right? Yeah. I know my mortgages have just been coming up here. I've got a couple fixed rates on some of my some variable rates on some of my real estate that I have. Yeah. I'm seeing $200, $300, $400 a month mortgage payment increases, right? So now me in my situation, my tenants pay that. It's not necessarily money out of pocket for me. It's going to be a line item on my taxes.
Yeah.
The average family member is going to get crushed by that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when we take that liquidity out of the market, as that rolls up, you have a satiation mark before we fall. So we've had earnings season that has come along here, and a lot of the big corps out of the States have had decent to increase in earnings. Yeah. So they're still making that. Yeah. The problem is that liquidity hasn't been completely pulled out of the market yet. We've just started.
Yeah. So call that a headwind.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But what we're seeing is that we're taking headwind data and we're applying it to immediate market results.
Yeah.
Well, but the
market's not looking out right now. I get it.
Do you get what I'm saying?
Oh, totally.
And that's where we got to get back to. Okay. The market is an immediate and forward looking. It's predictive, right? Thing like housing. Housing is cash flow liquidity looking. Okay. The housing market's falling apart in the States. We're seeing 15 and 20% reductions across housing everywhere in the States.
Yeah.
Longest listing sits in probably 15, 20 years, and price reductions are starting. Price reductions aren't supposed to be a thing until you get to a point of saturation in the market. We need millions of homes. We are short millions of homes in the demand. Well, why are we tipping over? Because we're still pulling that liquidity out.
Yeah.
We still have things in Canada where you have to, instead of like a small percentage to buy a house, you have to have a large percentage to buy a house, which you can't get because now rents are so high that you can't build that nest egg. You're not making enough money. You're spending it on gas. So it's impossible to buy a house now. Whereas a year ago, when we were getting CERB and all these other things, you had a little bit of extra money. You could build a nest egg because you weren't doing anything. And it was just easier to buy a house. And I think that's what's slowing it down now is everyone's realizing I can't afford to pay the monthly 6%, 7% that might happen. And
money back then too, just a year ago, money was like less than 2%.
Right. Yeah.
That's freaking cheap, man.
Yeah.
And now it's double.
They were buying boats. They were buying, like, they're doing everything. I was like watching them going, holy, like, I don't know why you're doing this. Like,
I have a question. because I've always wondered this. I remember maybe about 3 or 4 years ago when the government came in. I think it was the government, and we used to have a 30-year mortgage, maybe.
Yep.
I can't remember. And they said, you know what? The top mortgage that we should do is a 25-year mortgage.
Yep.
What does the government need to get involved in telling anybody what they could do for a mortgage if it's a 25 or a 40? Yep. Why would you want to consolidate someone's debt lower? If they can't afford a 25, go to a 30. At least you're not paying rent. But now I don't understand why the government ever wanted to get involved with that. And maybe that's to do with the people that run the CMHC or whatever it is. I don't know, or the housing control boards or whatever. It makes no sense to me. In Europe, they have 30, 40, 50-year mortgages, and they're happy with that. Why is it a good thing for someone to have a 25 or say $2,500 or $3,000 rent check, or you can put that straight onto a mortgage? Like, it's got nothing to do with the government if you can't afford to, if you default on it. It's got everything to do with the bank.
Yeah. No, I think you're bang on, Mike. I think that you nailed it. I think a lot of it comes back to the risk profile on a CMHC mortgage that the government's on the tap for. So you'd almost think that giving a 30-year profile, unless they know that this is unsustainable.
Yeah, unless they know it's unsustainable. Totally.
Right. So where we are right now, calling this a housing bubble over the last little while was sacrilege. Like, I've had conversations with real estate agent buddies of mine, and I'm like, dude, we're going to go through a massive correction here. And they're like, no, it's cycles, it's cyclical, it's all that stuff. I'm like, nah, I'm telling you right now, hang on to your assholes, because it's coming.
Everything in COVID was a bubble. It is. I hate to say it, but it is. It's reality. Like, nothing made sense. We sold a used trailer online, and the heading was mice infested. We're not going to open it up, and we got bid up on it.
Oh, yeah.
2 or 3 people. It's like, seriously.
Yeah.
Like,
kayaks were double the price. Bikes were double the price. It was just crazy. Everything was like so inflated.
Yeah.
You know, anything.
Yeah. No, it's crazy. No, I do. I think that where we are right now is I think that the Canadian housing industry, like for myself, I'm very much in the process right now of looking stateside for my investment stuff. I 100% agree with you that the American dollar is becoming weaponized, and for them to be able to drive that American dollar up high, if I can get in right now at a 78, 79 cent dollar conversion, go down there, buy. I'm kind of in a process right now to be able to buy $2 or $3 million in real estate down south, just with the cash flow that I have. So to be able to do that, and then watch the Americans weaponize the dollar, where we end up at a 55, 65. We've seen 60 cent Canadian dollar before. So you take a cap rate on a multifamily that might be, let's say you go into a B neighborhood, you're going to be like an 8, 9 cap on a multifamily. Well, I'm taking 35 points off the top. It becomes a 12, 13, or 14 cap by the time I bring the dollar back. Like, to me, that's easy peasy, right? It's about finding those right deals, finding an appropriate, management organization and structure, getting the legal entity created. And that's where I'm at right now. And a lot of this goes back to what we were talking about when this first started, is the YouTube homework piece, right? Yeah. How can I dive in now? Like, I'm looking in different states. Like, where's the best to register your LLC for best taxes? Like, Delaware is one of the top for doing it. Nevada, it's because they don't have state tax.
Taxes, for sure.
So again, in all of this stuff, to go pay a lawyer $800 or $900 an hour to sit down with him and pick his brain in each state, no. I'm going to go register an LLC somewhere, do a little due diligence, do a little my YouTube homework, and the profiteers get it for nothing. What is my time worth to you people?
100%.
Right.
And there's big eyeballs looking at that stuff all the time,
Oh, yeah. Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. Like,
people kicking the tires.
Sorry.
People want to see people kicking the tires. Like, this is what I came across, and people go, why didn't I think of that? Because people are so busy with life, but they love to go to YouTube and find someone that's doing it, and so they can go do it. And it'll happen. People do it once they watch YouTube. They do it next.
Well, Pat showed me Oh man, this was before we started our YouTube channel. This wonderful group, I think 3 guys, they're investors, and they basically break down how they go see a one show restaurant or a one show business and how they want to franchise it. And it goes through meeting them and talking to them and what's good and what's not. And it's super interesting and super funny too. But it's just like I learned a lot from, how do you do a YouTube show, but also about what franchises are and how franchises become. And it was just so interesting. And that's all because Pat was like interested at the time in franchises, probably still.
That was, yeah. So that's a channel called Dumb Money, and it's 3 guys that have done super well for themselves. A lot of the head guy on it is a stock trader, wrote a lot of books over the years. And then what they were doing was angel investing. So they would take, business ideas, concepts, sit down with the individuals, videotape it. They cut it all nicely. Again, nothing proprietary, but lay it out to people. And they're at like the Austin, Texas area. And the one guy's got a bar. Oh, they're killing it, man. They turned $200,000 over COVID into $20 million.
Crazy.
Insane.
Yeah.
And they were taking some of these risky entities. They said, how can we help you? Here's the venture capital money up front, that angel capital. And they've gone nuts. And now they've got that COVID finance following it's blown up. Right.
Yeah.
No, great guys, really cool guys. So
that's awesome. I love listening to that stuff.
Right.
So
that's where I was going to get to.
Yeah. So Mike, where are you going next? What's the next video going to be?
Okay. Heading to Ireland.
Nice.
Actually, I'm going to tell you this, but I can't tell you too much of this. Okay. I'm working on a video.
Cover your ears.
What's that?
I said profiteers, cover your ears. This is just for Pat and I.
Right.
I'm working on a project right now. It's got nothing to do with travel, but it's got everything to do with what I came across when I was in Cuba. And I think I have enough footage to make maybe a small video of it. It's kind of like a small little wee documentary kind of thing. And it's just about a person I came across. I don't want to say too much because it puts a lot of pressure on me. You know what I'm saying? Like if it doesn't turn out, it doesn't turn out. So I'm working on it right now, and I'm hoping by maybe next week I can put it together. It's kind of a little bit of work to do this because I came across something. I was there at the very end of my trip, and I thought, you know what? When I looked at the video when I got home at night from being out, I thought, I have something here. Let's see if I can make something of it within couple of hours of me going back and forth, because it wasn't on my resort, but it was in between 2 resorts, let's just say. So it's about a person I came across. I'm just going to leave it at that, but I'm hoping it might be done maybe next week if I could pull it together. It's going to be pretty interesting.
Well, if you can pull it together, come back on. We'll talk about it. You can show it, and we'll see what happens from it. And I look forward to see what you're doing in Ireland. I know both Pat and I have a mission to one day get to Ireland and ourselves and check it out. And no, you know what, Mike? It's always a pleasure having.
I do everything with detail.
You always bring some great information and some insight into just the general world, not just travel. So, and I know you and Pat have a lot in common and know a lot about finance that I just sit here in awe. I learned so much just sitting here listening to you two. So I appreciate it. Man.
I love finance. I love listening to what people are saying. I was watching Pat the other day. He was talking about, was it Twitter? No, it was Twitter, I think.
With Elon?
You were talking about Twitter?
Twitter a lot, yeah.
Yeah. How is Twitter doing?
Well, I think it's about 46 and change right now. When I was looking at it, I didn't watch it today. It was yesterday. It's looking more and more like Elon's going to end up buying that deal, right? So Elon liquidated, what did he say? $7 billion in Tesla, pulling out in preparation. And I think the problem is that he realizes that if a ruling comes down from the courts, actually in Delaware, then he's going to be in a situation where he's going to have to liquidate quickly. However, a lot of the Tesla, day traders, Tesla's a really tough one to kind of day trade. It's very sporadic, right? But a lot of the Tesla day traders and holders understanding that an event would be happening would likely liquidate a lot of Tesla position in expectation that this could go either really good or really fucking bad. So I think he the headwind on that one, he realizes that he's probably not going to end up skating on that deal. So it's kind of looking more and more that he's going to try to negotiate what he can get as far as a deal from that 5420 price range that he's pre-negotiated, hoping that if he can get down.
I wonder if he bought more at a lower price.
That's interesting. We'll know in his quarterlies, right? Like, so in the next week or two, he has to file. Wow. So this is the issue right now. Is one of the issues that was brought up by his by the opposing counsel is that he hasn't been transparent with his purchases and stock selling in regards to what he owns, and there's fines that go along with that. Now it's like $100,000. That's fuck all day.
It's like a quarter to us. 25 cents.
Exactly. So it's the cost of doing business.
I find with Elon Musk, he sits on both sides of the fence all the time, but I imagine he does it for his best interest. He's a very smart cookie. When you're worth the richest man in the world, you're a smart cookie. He knows how to play the game, and maybe he was buying low. Who knows? Like, that's the way these scoundrels make money. Like, they don't make money the honest way. They make it that way.
Yep. No, and I can't wait to be there.
The question is, I have a question for you because I don't know a lot about Twitter. I haven't been really following this story, but what is the driving force behind him getting Twitter? Like, I still haven't put that puzzle together. Why? What's
part of it was a freedom of speech thing. He was kind of annoyed that they were canceling people who had the same message. It was mostly like conservative leaning messages. My personal opinion would be that he sees money in it somehow. Like,
he's not correct.
Everything he does, he does for money, right? He doesn't do anything except maybe the rocket thing, and that rocket thing he's future seeing. 10 years from now, that's going to make him millions, but billions probably. Yeah. So I think he's using the idea that Trump started, that saying that Twitter was being unfair in the way that it's supposed to be freedom of speech is what they say, but it wasn't allowing freedom of speech.
And then he censored him.
And he kind of jumped on that bandwagon. That's my understanding. Yeah. Is that what you got from it, Pat?
So I've got two concepts that, what the fuck do I know? But these are the two concepts. First and foremost is Tesla is not an automotive company. They are a tech company.
Technology company, yeah.
So exactly. So you're going to be driving your computer to work every day. And one of the reasons why Tesla in and of itself is valued higher than all other automotive companies combined is the eventuality of autonomous driving, as well as once you have autonomous driving, autonomous means you're not going to have to drive it yourself. But once you have that autonomous driving, the entertainment facet that allows for in-car entertainment and all that sort of thing. So the fact that Twitter would be an easy play in that realm with advertising spectrums and all that. I also think that he's trying to put a pretty interesting colony on Mars, and he's going to need a form of communication. Mm-hmm. So is Twitter with its 158 characters the perfect mechanism to be able to communicate seamlessly, potentially that it's set up to be able to communicate back and forth to Mars? Who knows? I just think that obviously there's a play. He's not, God bless him if it's just for the, the freedom of speech, the First Amendment, God bless him.
Yeah.
But I would be
don't see it.
That's like a lot of billions.
Yeah. That's what he's
saying. He's going to spend 50, 60 billion on this?
Well, I think that I think it gets him into the advertising business that he has no basis in right now. So for instance, Tesla in and of itself advertises zero. If you look at on a line item on their balance sheet, there is no money in advertising. So if he was to take on Twitter, he would then have the cap room to be able to marginalize the expenditure for the eventuality of advertising what Tesla is what it does and why it's so great.
Yeah.
Everything has been word of mouth with Tesla up until this point.
And news articles and stuff like that, and like people doing YouTube on it. Like there is a huge amount of information on YouTube. I saw it on TikTok the other day. They were making fun of how different people open the door on a Tesla, like, and they're showing that they're showing that Tesla is luxurious and rich people drive Tesla and all, and it's all commercials, but it's all these people that are just trying to like make their own money doing it, you know.
But that's that viral nature that Elon does so well with, right? So if he's able to partner that with a post, like if Elon Musk puts a post out there to a Tesla video, game over, right? Like it's very, I don't know. Again, I've got no basis in that. Those are just the first kind of two things that come to mind, is that you're not going to drive your car to work anymore. Your computer is going to drive you to work. So what's the revenue stream from?
He's got a big puzzle there, and no one knows it. You know, he holds his cards tight, eh?
Yeah.
Well, now they're looking at the humanoid autonomous robot, right? That's the newest thing that Tesla is developing, and his viewpoint is that this now, okay, so we've replaced transit, we've replaced the automobile. Now we're looking to be able to replace the worker.
Yeah.
So Tesla in and of itself is not a factory. It's a factory that builds the factory.
Yeah.
Right.
So they come in and they're gigafactories. They come in and they're able to place them, stamp them all over the world. And then it's not the car that's the product for Tesla. It's the factory.
Yeah.
So once they have the factory and they have the line, then they can produce anything. And they're going to produce people now.
Speaking of Elon, I was watching an interview with him maybe a month ago or maybe 2 months ago, and I don't know if he was in Davos or where he was, but they were asking him a question about the human race here, and if we go autonomous and everyone doesn't have a job, and he said his words were, well, people are going to have to get allowance, people are going to have to get a base salary to do nothing, and that's what he thinks, because if we start taking jobs away from, the deep fryers of the world, the linesmen of the world, all these, mundane jobs, what do you do with people? Not everyone goes to be a nuclear scientist or a lawyer. What do you do with the people that just want to have a basic job? There's still going to be people that needed, but a door greeter might not need to be needed. So what do you do with that person? Everyone can't be on unemployment insurance, but his thought was, people across the world are probably going to have some sort of money.
Well, I was watching a house today being 3D printed. The whole house being 3D printed by this huge machine, and it was going really fast. And I was like, holy cow, like that's huge. So you need a couple of people to run the machine, make sure that there's stuff in it, but that's a lot of people. You'll still need hydro and stuff like that, but they'll just make machines that do that. And once that's done, it's just like in Giant Tiger and Walmart. Now they have gotten rid of so many tellers that even if you're a staunch, I am only going to go to a teller, it's very inconvenient now because you're in long lines. But they have like 18 of those machines. You do it yourself, and so that's like the poorest of the poor that are doing that job. Those are like, now it's retired people are doing a lot of it, trying to kind of supplement their income because interest rates stuff have always gotten so high. So like, I don't know what you do. We have proven that CERB does not work well, like when you're handing out money. So there's got to be another option. But if you go back in history, they said that about tractors, right? So tractors took a large workforce off because they used to have traveling. Well, they still do, to pick and stuff like that. But to plant, they used to have large forces to plant, and then the tractor took over it. So we had to pivot and find other ways to make money. It is quite possible that we'll do that. That's what I'm hoping for. I know eventually we'll run out of jobs to do, but there's got to be jobs out there that will be created because of this new stuff. I don't know.
One thing about when you go to those tills that don't have people, the government absolutely loves it because there's no cash.
Right.
So that means the government gets every single cent that they deserve instead of money getting laundered at the cashier, you know. If someone
Yeah.
made money on the side or was a bartender and they want to spend their tips, you know.
Yeah. You're also not using coupons. I don't see anyone using coupons. Not a coupon to be seen anywhere.
Great point.
Yeah.
Never thought of that.
Yeah, you're always using a MasterCard or a bank card too. So the bank gets their cut. There's so many things that it's like when they came out with no bags. I was like, well, that's really nice of you, but now you're selling bags. So where is this that you're a nice guy, that you're saving the environment? No, you just found another way to frickin' make money.
Yeah,
because no one remembers bags, right? Yeah. I don't know how many bags I have in my car that I bought.
Totally, 100%.
Going back to what you guys are saying, I think I have some good news for you, you old guys over there.
Oh, good.
I think your demographics are imploding. So all around the world, and this is Mikey. This is my big problem with China right now, right? So all around the world. So I'm a millennial. Like I'm right on that cusp of millennial, right?
Yeah.
So all around the world, the really cool thing about the millennials in Western culture is that we exist.
Yeah.
Nowhere else in the world do we exist. No one else has a millennial generation other than Western cultures.
Is that right, eh?
Anywhere.
That's cool. It is.
The reason why is the industrialization. So China, for instance, right? So China 55 years ago was agrarian. Now they are the tech center of the world. But what they did is they moved in an agrarian society, children are free labor.
Yeah.
You move to the city, they're not free labor anymore. They're expensive. So you don't have 9, 10, 15, 20 good Irish Catholic family children. You now have one. Yeah. And in China, they had the policy of one child policy. So what happens is that you have 50 years of that, and China is at a demographic influx right now that they are so inverted. Like if you think of the age pyramid, right? You should have more babies down at the bottom and then less 10-year-olds, less 20-year-olds, less 30. That's how your society functions.
Yeah.
And you grow, and that pyramid should, at worst, invert slightly, but then come back down to the base. Japan, for instance, there's more adult diapers sold than there are children's diapers.
Crazy.
So what my concern is not that we're going to have too many laborers. I think we are going to have a drastic shortage of labor, and especially skilled labor.
Yeah, for sure.
If we have that inverse in demographic problem, and this is where China's fucked right now, is China, they don't have enough 40-year-olds to consume their production. So they're 40 and 50-year-olds that are getting to quote unquote retire. I don't even know what that looks like in China, but there's no 30-year-olds to pick that up. Their consumption is dying. Wow. So now you leave the city because you don't have the job producing the thing that you once did. So now, especially with COVID lockdowns, when you've been locked down in your community, Shanghai, for 2 years, right? I sent James a story here earlier today about an IKEA in China that they were literally locking the doors to the IKEA because there was a contact in the IKEA, and the people broke out of the Chinese IKEA and were like running for their lives down the street.
My God, eh?
China is in a problem. India didn't do it as fast. So India is going to have a longer runway, if you will. They're still fairly agrarian, a lot of things. A country that's really kind of ready to explode is a country like Brazil. Like Brazil's going to do super well. Mexico is going to do super well because they've only really industrialized in the last 20, 25 years. Like Mexico with NAFTA, that was their threshold, right? They had an opportunity to do real commerce. Well, China, after World War II, we said, hey, listen, we're going to allow you guys to produce and produce and produce and produce and produce. And they all left the rice fields. So now what do you do with them? There's no millennial generation anywhere in those populations.
Wow.
As that inverts.
Yeah.
And this is the real big problem, especially if COVID is going to be striking China. Their vaccine does not work. It's not an mRNA vaccine that's based there. They have their Chinese developed vaccine. Their game plan right now, the messaging from Xi Jinping, the president there, is that their COVID policies are going to run until 2027.
Wow.
What? If they have a breakthrough of COVID, they have a no COVID policy, zero. They lock everything down, right? If they have what we had for COVID, you will lose 50 to 100 million people in a month.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So now you get an age demographic with a 50 to 100 million population per month that would be affected. China's fucked.
Yeah, I don't get them. I don't understand them.
Well, it's that you've got one leader that no one can say anything to.
Yeah.
Like it's despotism at its finest. When you have one leader that he takes everyone else out back behind the barn and shoots, nobody wants to be the guy and like, hey, do you really think that's the way we should go about?
Yeah. So we have another Putin.
Oh, I think Ping makes Putin look like nothing.
Is that right? Hey, wow.
Yeah. Well, he's got 1 billion people.
Yeah.
And they're all just like 1.5 billion people. And they're all like, whatever you say, pal. It's
nuts.
It's wild.
Yeah.
So.
Well, the other thing you mentioned, the children thing. So it's been quite a while. Like I was a young child when I heard that they could only have one kid, and that daughters were being left on the street and stuff like that. That becomes a mental process after a while. Even when they came out and said, now we're going to let you have 2 kids. You've raised people to only have one child. It's like our society right now. How many people who are 30 are having kids because they want to, or getting married because they want to? When I was a kid, I don't know about you, Mike, you were getting married at 20, 21. Like it was like you go to university.
We were late. We waited till we were 26.
Right. But that was considered late.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
But now you're like 30, 40 before you're starting a family. And it's because of that. It's because having children wasn't as important. We don't need farm kids anymore. We don't need 9, 10 kids. My ex-wife's grandmother had a bunch of kids. My ex-wife's mom had 6 kids, but they were all on farms, right? It's growing. It's like he said, you're raising your workforce. And it's totally true. But now that I live in the city, I don't need 9 kids. I couldn't even afford 9 kids.
Well, and with inflation and everything that's gone on, housing prices, gas prices, car prices, people probably that are getting married are thinking maybe we might not have kids, or we're going to put it out really late. Like when I ask my kids about having kids, they're like, I'm not having kids right now. I don't even know if I'm getting married. Like I can't even answer that question.
No, which is wild because I remember thinking about that in high school. Even you're considering it, but it's also like I could not imagine taking my kids to McDonald's, let alone a real restaurant. Like the price that it would cost to take a family of 4 or a family of 6 to McDonald's, I could, or even on a family trip, go to Great Wolf Lodge.
Yeah.
You would be able to afford it.
You can go to Cuba cheaper.
Yeah.
Right.
Go to Cuba cheaper. People laugh at me. They go, "Why do you go to Cuba in the summer?" I said, it's cheaper to go to Cuba than it is to stay in Ontario or rent a cottage. Yeah. And everything's free.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I was saying to you guys before we started off here, that's why I'm so burnt today. I was out on the boat with my daughter, and we cruised down. It was like a 3-hour cruise, the whole kind of deal. But then we ended up for us to go down there, have lunch, have a nice afternoon. You're about $200.
Yeah, $200 for an outing.
For gas in the boat. Gas once we got down there, refilled, lunch. It was a great day, but you hit the wallet for $200 today on a Tuesday.
Yeah.
No, it's crazy still.
Yeah, it's interesting times. Like 10 years ago, if you had to say it's going to cost $200, there's no way. But now that's reality.
That's cheap. That's a cheap day.
Yeah.
No. Yeah. Well, guys, I think we're at that point here. If we want to start wrapping up a little bit, Mike, as always, pal, I want whenever you get that next little documentary project that you're hinting at a little bit earlier there, when you get that all wrapped up, come on back. Let us take a sample of it here. We'll throw it up here.
Awesome.
Mike, it's always a pleasure to have you. I love what you're doing. You're a bit of inspiration for what we're looking to do and what you're building and developing in and of yourself. And I appreciate you taking the time and coming on with us and having these interesting conversations about what you're doing and why you're doing it too. And the things that you're doing for those people in Cuba, whether it be the food, but also just the notoriety and some of the publicity stuff that otherwise the skill set that you have is allowing them to vicariously hit a whole nation of market that they would have no way of getting to.
Hey, so, I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
No, that's amazing stuff. So I'm glad to have you. And anytime you got something like that, we'll flog it any way we can. So,
well, thank you. I really appreciate you guys having me on. I really enjoy talking with you guys. It's a lot of fun. I really appreciate it.
So go to Finding Fish on YouTube. Check out his videos. He's got multiple videos. One of my favorites is his donut video. I have to go get those donuts at some point because they look gosh darn delicious. Yeah. But yeah, check out all those videos. He and his wife are adorable. And yeah, Mike, thank you for coming on. I appreciate it. I can't wait to talk to you again. I think it's going to be awesome. As for the Soaring Profits, I'm going to be in Halifax next week. I'm hoping to do some filming myself, but like Mike says, things happen. I'm hanging out with my daughter, so you never know. But hopefully we'll see some sights and sounds and some meals. I don't know. We'll check it out and see what happens. Awesome. Yeah, so you guys have a great night. Always enjoyable.
Mike, now, first time we had you on here, you were one of our first guests.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have our sign off, right?
Yeah.
Did we do that with you?
I don't think so.
You got to sign off thing. As always, folks, Mike's got to come up with, I'm going to do my sign off. James is going to do his sign off. And we always put our live guests on the hot seat when we sign off here. They got to come up with a little slogan, a little something to end it off. So, folks, as always, thank you. Like, subscribe, and share. And let's make some money together, folks.
Guys out there, profiteers, remember, check in tomorrow night. We have Ross, not tomorrow night, Thursday night, 9 p.m. our live. It's going to be Ross. He's a very interesting guy. He's lived a long life in the radio and TV industry. Come in and check us out. And as always, let's heal our minds, bodies, and souls together.
And this is Mike from Finding Fish. Thanks for watching. It's been very entertaining.